You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
If you lived in Australia during the late 80s and early 90s, then no doubt you know George Kapiniaris. An actor by training, George, or Kappa, or G-Kap as he's known around the block, first played the serious part of DJ in The Flying Doctors before creating the comically slapstick character Memo in the stage show Wogs Out of Work and later TV show Acropolis Now. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast episode, George discusses stereotypes, playing characters from the underworld, rules of comedy, and his upcoming tour Straight Outta Compo. He also sheds light on the term skip and how he flipped bigotry on its head, making this word part of the Aussie lexicon. And for those interested in learning stand-up comedy and want to get personal coaching from the man himself, dates for the November 2017 stand-up comedy course have just been announced. Go to www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com for information and to book your spot. And now, here he is, George Kapiniaris. Good afternoon, George. How are you?
Hey, Maury. How you going?
Oh, good, mate. Good.
So what's Maury short for?
Oh, you know, Aussies and their nicknames, everything.
Is it Morris or
well, Morgan.
Oh, you?
Yeah, no, actually, I'm a real Anglo. It's Andrew Morgan is my
Oh,
name.
Morgan. So,
How many
yeah.
Georges were there growing up in your class?
Well, I originally went to Richmond High School, so it was just all Georges there.
So you must have had a nickname, right?
So I was Kappa. I was
Kappa, right. So there you go. Same reason. I think there was 5 Andrews in my year as well. So good. We have something in common. Well, it's interesting. We've just touched on the two sort of cultural differences of our upbringing, and that is your background being of Greek heritage. I believe you're born in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah?
So I was born in Australia. I was born in, funnily enough, Lonsdale Street, which used to be the biggest Greek street in Australia.
Queen Victoria Hospital, was it?
Yeah, the Queen Victoria Hospital, and they turned into a shopping centre.
Mm.
And the shopping centre was that big. There was no sunlight on Lonsdale Street anymore.
Yeah.
So all the Greeks moved from there and they went to Oakley now. So there's a big mall in Oakley, which if you were there, someone knocked you out, you lost your memory, you woke up, you'd think you were in Athens. It's that Greek.
Is that?
So you wouldn't know. You got to see it. I mean, don't even spend the airfare to go to Greece. Just go to Oakley.
You go to Oakley.
And you'll feel like you're in Greece.
Beautiful.
Definitely.
Oh, beautiful. Look, I grew up with you on TV. You were that stereotypical Greek character. I think a little bit over the top character. I don't know. Was that the Greeks that you hung around at the time?
No, that wasn't the Greeks I hung around. So that was my parents' generation. Memo came from the world of my parents, like my dad, my uncle, mums, aunties, all rolled into one, became Memo. So Memo, the character. Because when we did Acropolis Now, we all had to come up with a character for this cafe that we all came from or worked in. So I actually remember at the time there was a guy. You know, you ever been to Pellegrini's in the city? It's an Italian cafe and only serves 5 types of pastas. And you walk in, and the head waiter is always rude to you, or the customers, like he tells you off. Right. Well, the yuppies used to love going there. They used to get told off by this Italian guy who just yell at them and swear at them. And so that's what I based Memo on that character. It wasn't even a Greek character. Yeah, right. So when you say it's a stereotypical character, you're kind of wrong, because I've grabbed a lot of different characters and put them together to make that character. So he's a combination of lots of things. He's not just the one thing. So the other thing with Memo was, even though he had a lot of bravado, he was very soft and he had a lot of pathos and he had a lot of emotion. So he was also a very masculine character, but he was also very feminine and very sensitive as well. So saying something is stereotypical is kind of wrong in this instance.
Yeah, right.
So that's the way I see myself. You know, when I first started on TV, I played a character, not Memo. I was on The Flying Doctors, and I was asked to play an Italian character.
Yeah, that's right.
And I went, hang on, but I'm Greek, so why don't I just play a Greek character?
Yep.
Why is his, instead of his name being Dominic, why can't his name be Demetrius? Because I'm Greek, even though I'm a country. So as a country character, why can't my heritage or my background be Greek, even though I won't bring it out in every episode?
Yep.
it's good to have a background. So as an actor, you make choices to make the character not interesting for them out there, but for you. So you enjoy playing him too.
Yep.
See what I mean? And so in Acropolis Now, when you say stereotypical Wog, stereotypical Greek, we had 3 types of Wog.
Yep.
We had Simon, who played the Spanish
Palomares,
yuppie, who was sort of the non-Wog.
Yep.
He was sort of too educated or too upper class or too, to be Woggy.
Yep.
But he was still a Wog. There was Jim, who was like the petrol-head.
Yep.
He's the characters that I grew up with. He was like probably me, that sort of La Trobe University, sitting at the cafe, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffees instead of going to class, Wog. And then there was the off-the-boat Wog, which is where we came from,
Yep.
And then Mary came along, which was a character, Effie, who was a very not dominated female, but a domineering female, which went against the went against the stereotypical view of what a Greek woman should be.
Coincidentally, I went to school in Glen Waverley, right near where the Greek population is, or just down the road, with a lady called, we'll just call her Kathy, but she was of Greek background. Same haircut, same hairdo, I should say, with 2 cans of hairspray each morning before she got on the bus. Yeah,
when we put those characters together, Simon Palomares and I were throwing around ideas. We came up with the Effie characters. I think this was before Acropolis Now. We had similar characters in mind. We just based it on basically, again, our sisters, cousins, friends, colleagues, people that we went to uni with or to high school with.
Yep.
The bigger the girl, the bigger the hairdo. The more the makeup, all that sort of stuff. So these were honest observations. They weren't made up.
Definitely, I can confirm for that. Yeah, definitely. Kathy was the Effie for sure. Now, Simon Palomares, who you just talked about, did you go to school with him at Rusden College?
Yes, I met him at Rusden. So he and Nick Giannopoulos were both there. They were in the same year. They were the year behind me. And when I was at Rusden, I got sick, so I deferred a year. And then I ended up, it was almost like fate, isn't it? I ended up in the same year with Simon. And then the first time I worked with Simon, I was more of an actor than anything else. So, so the first project I did with Simon, he was the lighting designer and set designer, and I was the main actor in a play by Václav Havel called Sorry. So, and that's where we met, and that's where we, started, having a friendship or relationship, colleagues and all that sort of stuff. And then we decided to do more projects together. The next one was like a theatre in education, community theatre a thing. Peter Rosethorn, Pete from Kath and Kim, and a bunch of other people, Barbara Waters, who ended up being a muso, Shelley Scown, a singer, a lot of really good people in that class, directed by a guy called Michael Bishop, who was a legend at the time and still is. And we did this performance, and out of that we came up with a little sketch, which was about 2 very kind of stereotypical Italian characters, very dubious, stereotypical, almost Marx Brothers type characters. And they were called the Tibaldi brothers. And we named them after a salmonella poisoning scandal that happened during the time. So Tibaldi salami, so we called them the Tibaldi brothers, the sons of salmonella. And they used to sell test tube babies to members of the audience. So, because the show was about in vitro fertilization, IVF, so we had these dubious characters, and that was a 2-minute sketch show, like in our uni production, and then as soon as that finished, Simon said to me, "Listen, I've been doing a little bit of stand up with this group called Peaches La Creme, so I've done a bit of stand up. Do you want to maybe try these characters out, and we'll go to Le Joke and the Dick Whittington Tavern, which were the big comedy venues at that stage in Melbourne. And give them a go and see, the last laugh, and see if we can get some more gigs and paid gigs." So we did a bunch of tryouts, not that many. Before we knew it, we were regulars at Le Joke, and the Dick Witt and all these other venues, Prince Pat Hotel, and all of a sudden, someone came up to us and they said, "Hey, it was the guys that own the Comedy Cafe in Brunswick Street.
Yep.
It's like a comedy theatre restaurant." And they said, "Would you like to do a season?" And like we didn't even know what we were doing. We just started doing a show called the Tiboldi Brothers, and all of a sudden, these guys wanted us to put together a 2-hour show.
And how much material did you have at that time?
We would have had maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour at most.
Big jump.
Of songs and gags and what have you.
Yeah.
Almost like, Marx Brother-ish sort of, Abbott and Costello, Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin style show. And all of a sudden we've had to put this show together. So we called the show the Tiboldi Brothers, Worry Beads and Fairy Dice, which immediately painted a picture. We dressed like the Blues Brothers, so kind of like Italian Blues Brothers with dark sunglasses, and put together this show filled with sketches, which basically was the prequel. It was a setup for all the Wogs Outta Work shows and all the stuff that we did later on, because it had characters doing monologues, it had sketches. So we had a funeral director called Funerelli. We had a Greek guy drinking Greek coffee, which almost was my Memo character. Talking about his kids and his family and where it came from. We had 2 guys in a Monaro with matching jackets and fairy dice on a mirror and a furry steering wheel driving down Lygon Street. We had a character that was almost like a pompous politician trying to come up with a multicultural festival called National Brotherhood Week. So we had all these characters that were basically the setup for Wogs Outta Work. And it was a hit, 5-6 weeks. The Age came out with a review. They said ethnic comedy arrives at last, and we turned to each other and we said, "Oh yeah, that's what we do. We do ethnic comedy, right? We just doing funny stuff, but apparently we do ethnic comedy. So yeah, let's wear that hat." So, and that's where kind of Wog humour or ethnic humour was really born in Melbourne. I mean, there was Joe Dolce before that, and there was other bits and pieces, but we kind of, I think, that show basically was the blueprint for all the other shows that have happened after that.
Yeah, right. So you've highlighted that you've started from a drama background. Today you've done TV, you've done movies, of course, stand-up, music as well. I believe I believe you play guitar, don't you? Do you sing as well?
Well, that's right. I'm about to, after we do this, I'm about to go and rehearse with my band, because we're doing a show called The Songs of Countdown. So it's myself and Toddy Goldsmith and my band, The Flares, which are all the guys from different bands around Melbourne, including, Chocolate Starfish and Big Pig and all these, players. So we put a band together called The Flares. So this show's called The Songs of Countdown. So, so that's starting up soon. You can go to my website, which is georgekapiniaris.com, and all that info's there anyway. So, that's a really fun show. So we did a few of those over Christmas, and now we've got another 4 shows coming up, and a lot of interest. In fact, I might put the actual rehearsal on Facebook tonight.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we'll definitely link to that on the show notes underneath this recording for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, cool.
You can click on that button. Excellent. Well, so on that note, you cover all forms of entertainment. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference?
For entertainment? No, I like variety. I like mixing it up. I'll do some comedy, and then I'll get over that, and then I'll do a musical, and that's fantastic. Then I'll get over that. Then I'll do an acting part in a series or a film or a one-off, and that's fantastic. But then you crave the live response from the audience again, and and then you want to do some music, and because it's just a great feeling to be in the middle of all these instruments and amps and all that sort of stuff. But then after 5 shows, you're pounded with that. You want to go back to doing a bit of stand-up, so for me, variety is kind of the what I crave. But I love it all. I love doing it all. Yeah. It's what I'm born to do. I can't do anything else. So. For the last 33 years, that's what I've been doing professionally. And then all the, the other years through my schooling, I was always involved in whether it be the school play or, studying, something, whether it be Shakespeare or Brecht or putting together a community theatre show. I've always been involved in performance.
Yeah, right. Not everyone may know that of you as the serious actor as well, although obviously that is who you are.
Yeah.
Of course, you played in The Underbelly, I think it was the first season, which came out in 2008.
Yeah.
You played a lawyer, George Kapiniaris, I think was the character.
That's right. I played George Kapiniaris. And look, with the acting, I see stand-up comedy as another level of acting, because I did a lot of theatre sports after my sort of finished my course, and and theatre sports is almost, it can lead you into acting or it can lead you into comedy. I never actually wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So a lot of my peers, a lot of you guys are all stand-up comedians. You've had other jobs and gone, I wouldn't mind being a stand-up comedian. I could do that. Well, for me, it's something that I was doing to fill in the gaps when I didn't have work. So it's a great way of actually making money when you're not working or we're not acting. And there's a lot of downtime when you're an actor in this industry, especially in Australia. So only recently, only in the last 10 years, I've taken this job seriously. I used to do, what are my party tricks? I'll do them on stage. Fantastic. I got through that, got paid for it. But only recently I've started going, you know what, I really got to concentrate and write some material and think of something and all that sort of stuff. So, serious acting is what really I wanted to get into from the word go. So getting a part like George Kapiniaris was great because, basically portraying a real life character, which was interesting.
And he's still alive too. So do you ever worry that in your research of that character that you got a little bit too close to the Carlton crew and you might know something that you shouldn't?
Yeah, he was actually happy for us to have that character in the show, and then all of a sudden the producers came up to me and said, no, don't mention anywhere that you are George Kapiniaris, that you're playing. We've taken all the bits out of the show where you actually mention your name, and in the titles George Kapiniaris is just the lawyer. So because the day that I was taping the show, I actually asked for someone to contact him and ask him how to pronounce his name, if it was Kapiniaris or Kapiniaris. So, and they were helpful and all that sort of stuff. And then later on, Channel 9 said, "Hang on, back off. Don't go to there's some calls being made in regards to this. He doesn't want to be mentioned." Fair enough. I mean, he's a real life person. He's got rights as well. So there was a guy that came up to me one day at the airport and said, I'm friends with George and he knows you're playing the part. Pretty happy about that. So it was almost like I got, someone's blessing,
Yeah.
Also, and it's a funny world to be involved in, There was another situation where I was doing my stand-up show, and in it I had some jokes about one of the characters in the show, and I was basically hanging shit on the character, one of the killers or one of the criminals in Underbelly, and I had his relatives come up to me and say, "Hey, can you not make fun of him? He's our cousin." Okay, so it's funny where kind of life knocks on the door of art and says piss off or cut it out and all that sort of stuff. So that was interesting.
I'm sure look, you're a serious actor and I'm sure you're not the first actor that's been approached by members of the public. I know another comedian who's came from a drama background, Greg Fleet, who you know very well, I'm sure, when he was in England, because he killed Daphne in Neighbours, the character Daphne, obviously not the real life human, and he had English people coming up to him getting angry at that fact that his character had killed another character. So I know. I also know a comedian, very, very well-known comedian, who did some Gary Lyon jokes after the Billy Brownless Gary Lyon thing, and he got a text from somebody saying, I thought we were mates. You don't do that to your mates. So he had to get rid of that material too. I won't say who it was, but you could probably imagine who it was. But anyway. Well, the difference between tragedy and comedy is time, so he could probably come back with that joke in Another decade.
If you're going to hang shit on someone, make sure it's someone that everyone hates. So Donald Trump,
Yeah,
boy, there's so much Donald Trump stuff and Pauline Hanson stuff because everybody hates them. So, yeah, so go for it. But if they've kind of got a personality or a persona that, is kind of loved and not liked, you've got to be careful a bit, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, no, I can understand that. Well, that leads me to another question about picking on people, poking fun. Skips, Greeks, Italians, Lebanese. When you get up on stage and the stuff that you can see on in your videos and people have seen you on stage, they know that you play fun and poke fun. Is there anybody that you can't tease? Or has comedy changed over the years?
Yeah, there's some rules. They're sort of transient or transparent rules, but there's some rules like commandments with comedy. One, don't touch the Jews. Stay away from the Jews. Can't touch the Jews at all. Aboriginal people, Kooris. I don't think we can even say Aboriginal anymore. So Indigenous, you stay away from that. Unless you're Indigenous or Jewish, stay away. Gay, don't go near it. Unless you are or related to or something, don't go near it. I can hang shit on my Greek heritage, my Greekness, I think. I was told by a Greek audience I couldn't hang shit on the heroes of Greece. So I was doing some jokes about Helen of Troy and Ulysses and all that stuff. Someone gave me a bit of a lecture about that. So there's a lot of rules and regulations that apply, so I can't hang shit on Italians, Lebanese, it's all this sort of stuff where because we come from Australia and we're all made up of everything, we should be able to talk about everything, but apparently we still can't. So especially in this day and age, it's really, really dangerous. So we can talk about bong smoking. We can talk about heroin is a great topic to talk about when you're a comedian. People love it. That doesn't hurt anyone's feelings. So you know what I mean? If you're a lesbian, you can say how much you hate men. That's fine. That's cool. So there's all these kind of stupid rules about, what you can talk about. I had a comic. I thought it was a nice comic. I love the comic. Is it Justin Hamilton? Is that his name? Yeah, I think it's Justin. Yeah. And he had a podcast, and so he did an interview, and we got along. We did a week in Adelaide, and we got along. He goes, I've been watching you, and I thought he was going to say something else. He goes, you're really old school.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, okay, well, how many laughs did I get, and how many laughs did you get? I think that's the only way you can measure how funny a comic is how many laughs they get, isn't it?
Talking about that, so straight out of Compo, that's the show that you're doing, and it is comedy, isn't it? So
yeah, so it's got. So we all do a comedy stand-up piece, and then we all we all get involved in. We've got a bunch of sketches in there as well. So we've got the anger management sketch, and we've got the hot seat Who Wants to Be a Millionaire sketch, and we've got, we've got a couple of things and videos and all sorts of things. But all our stand-up is different. So, of course, my style is different to Tahir's, different to Joe's, different to Rob's. In my stand-up, so don't come expecting me to talk about, Greeky things, even though I'm Greek and my background is Greek. I talk about iPhones, like technology. I'll talk about humanity versus technology. I'll talk about Pokemon. I'll talk about fashion. I'll talk about... So straight away with me, you don't get what you would have gotten 20 years ago. You get something different. If you go see Wogs at work, you might get, something from them. But if you go and see me, my stuff has progressed now to somewhere else. So
there you go.
Again, I'm a student of comedy, and I'm trying to change things up as much as I can.
Yeah, right. And the season for this starts around September, I believe.
Starts September 20th, I think, or 22nd, and all over Melbourne, all over Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, and maybe Perth again. I'm not sure. Canberra.
And ACT has one show as well.
Yeah. No, it's got two shows now, so it's sold out straight away.
Two now, is it?
So now we've got another one.
So there's a couple of months before you start the tour with Straight Outta Compo, which we'll put a link in, of course. If someone wants to catch you, if someone wants to grab you someone wants to get you for a show, being an MC, giving a motivational speech,
All that stuff.
getting you to play a non-stereotypical Greek character.
Or a stereotypical Greek character.
Or like a yeah.
You want to write it, we'll do it. We'll act it out as stereotypical as we can possibly get it. You know?
Excellent. How do they do that? How do they get in contact with George Kapiniaris?
Well, you go to BGM is my acting agent if they want to get me for an acting role. They can go to my website, georgekapiniaris.com, and I've got a contact little thing that they can fill out, and that sends an email to me, and then I'll get back to them. They can get me on Facebook, so George Kapiniaris, or George Kapiniaris Productions, and write me a message. And I'll, they want to book me to MC a wedding and do comedy at the wedding, I can do that for them. Or, they want me to MC their function, and what have you. It's easy. It's easy in this day and age with social media. It's so easy to catch up with any of us. You'll find us.
Yeah. Well, fantastic.
Has this been refreshing for you or stereotypical? Have I been stereotypical today?
I don't know. The question is, does the audience like you? So hopefully the people that listen to this podcast, who are up-and-coming comedians or thinking about getting into stand-up comedy, to be honest.
Keep writing. I think for you guys out there, you want to get into do comedy, just keep writing about yourself, keep writing. Whatever happens to you, observation is your best material. So whatever happens around you or to you, everything about you is interesting because people can relate to it because they've probably been through it too. And it's also therapeutic for you and for them talking about it, I remember writing a bit about IVF. In the end, we ended up having two kids from in vitro fertilization. It's one of the funniest routines I've ever written, because it was happening to me, and it was something that was quite strong.
Yeah, right.
So it's your best material. Your own lying doesn't help. You can make up shit, but speaking truth comedy, we call it. So, and that's why we do the woggy stuff that we do. It's truth comedy, because I'd be lying if I said, my name was Dave and I lived in Warrnambool or something,
Yeah.
My name is George and I grew up in Richmond, moved to East Doncaster. So I was called a wog. I was calling them skips. And that was the world I lived in.
Yep. Did you invent the word skip?
No.
It became part of the lexicon of Australia.
It's a big lexicon, isn't it? In some places we said that word, they didn't know what we were talking about, in some places in Australia, an Anglo-Aussie was a dingo or they had different names, but a ding, I think dings, some places are called, in Perth or Kalgoorlie or something. But it was such a relief when there was a word because, I moved from Richmond High, 90% Greek, to East Doncaster, where it was me and one other Macedonian guy, then. And, I was called a wog and what have you, which was an insult. When you first heard it, it just blew my mind. Wow, what? What do they call me? What am I? And then a mate of mine, a Cypriot mate of mine, who in the end became my best friend and best man at my wedding twice, both weddings.
Okay.
He said, if anyone ever says that to you, just call him Skip.
Yeah.
And I went, fuck yeah, Skip. Yeah. Like Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. That's a great comeback. Love that. So that, for me, was the best comeback, even before I was in stand-up comedy. Shut up, Skip.
Yep. Well, George, thank you very much. You've certainly delved deep into my childhood, growing up with you on TV, teenagehood, I should say. I wasn't that young, and given me some ideas into the characters that you've produced and the person that you are today, and of course the way you've been part of changing Australian culture. You didn't invent the dim sim, but you've done a lot.
I actually did invent the dim sim. Right. It was called the Jim Sim, and Jim was too stereotypical a name for it. So I go, all right, let's call it the Demetrius Sim. It just didn't work. So the Demetrius didn't work.
Look, I could believe if you said the Chico roll. I think that sounds more Greek, but no, I can't believe you invented the dim sim. Mate, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, yeah.
Look forward to meeting you in person.
No worries, Murray.
Cheers, George.
Right, I'll talk to you. Ciao.